On this video, I would like to just give some biblical rules that might help in identification for parsing verbs, like rules of parsing. So first of all, I show an overall chart where we have three boxes to represent the three radicals often of the Hebrew verb. Then we have a prefix. You go to the prefix to start with. And let's say you have a verb like yishmor from shamar. Go to the prefix, the yod. If it's a yod, it's third person. If it's a tav, it's third feminine, yod third masculine. If it's a tav, it's third feminine, or could be second person. If it's an aleph, it's first person. If it's a noon, if it's aleph, it's first person singular. If it's a noon, it is first person plural. So let me just go through some of these rules that I have written that may help in parsing. If you have a yod, a tav, an aleph, or a noon, then go to the prefix consonant. We'll look at the regular perfect verb and imperfect. But if you go to the A vowel in the first, under the yod, let's say yagdil, an A vowel. Then go to the next full vowel. If it's an I vowel, it's a Hiphil, like yagdil. He will magnify, or he will cause to be great. So that's the first rule. Anything else will normally be kal, your simple stem. Remember, there's 7 stems basically in Hebrew. We have the kal, the Niphal, the Piel, Pual, Hiphil, Hophal, and Hiphil. So let me go back to that first rule. If you have like a form like yagdil from gadal, you have an A vowel under the yod prefix followed by a long herik yod. It has to be a hiphil, a causative. He will cause to be great, or he will magnify. Anything else you can pretty much parse as a kal. Rule number 2. If you have an I class vowel, go to the first radical or consonant of the root. If it is an A vowel, it's got to be a Niphal. Let me give you an example, and I'm using the verbs that Weingreen's grammar uses, and that is, because I taught from that a lot, that is yishamer. Yishamer. It's the Niphal imperfect. He will be kept. And notice you have the I class vowel followed by a dogish, that's a dot in the sheen, and a long A vowel. And he will be kept. Notice that the noon of the Niphal has assimilated into the sheen by progressive assimilation. The noon and the sheen come together, and you double the sheen, like yin sha mer becoming yish sha mer. Then thirdly, if you have a shava under the prefix, then go to the next vowel. If it's an A vowel, it is a Piel. If it's a U vowel, it's a Pual in the imperfect now. Let me give an example. Yedaber. You have the yod prefix. Davar is the word to speak. You have a shava followed by an A class vowel, and then you double the middle radical, which is the bait. So yedaber, you're doubling the bait in the Piel stem. So the A vowel, you have a shava followed by an A vowel, and we would translate it, he will speak. Then you have, if you have a shava followed by a U vowel, a kibbutz, ye du bar. You're having, we would translate it, it was spoken. What you're looking at there is a Pual stem. The shava followed by the kibbutz, and again the doubling of the middle consonant or the radical. Yedu bar. So yedaber is the Piel, yedu bar is the Pual. Note all the way through here in the Piel and the Pual, the middle consonant or radical is doubled. Then, number 4, if it's an O-class vowel under the prefix, which we would call a comets katon, or which is called a comets katon, or a hatu comets, you're going to have a Hophal imperfect. He has been magnified or caused to be great. Notice Yog Dal is an example from Gadal with that comets Hatuf or comets Katon, that O vowel. A Yog Dal in a closed unaccented syllable. Then, rule number 5, the participle will have a prefix beginning with the mem, especially in the Piel, Pual, Hiphil, Hophal, and Hiphil stems. For example, magdil, meaning magnify, shows that we're looking at a Hiphil participle. We have the mem prefix. We have an A vowel under it, a comets, a short A vowel, and then it's followed by the long I vowel, the hirik yod, magdil. And that would be true on basically that mem will come before a Piel, a Pual, Hophal, and Hiphil, except you'll use the same pointing that we've talked about in the imperfect rule chart, or the imperfect rules for an imperfect verb. So let me just sort of summarize it. These are imperfect rules to determine if you're looking at an imperfect. You go to the prefix, and we're using yod as third person. You could have tav, you could have aleph, depending on what person. But if we're using, let's say, yod as the third person in the imperfect, if it's an A vowel, you go to the next full vowel. If it's an I, it's a Hiphil. Anything else is cow. Rule number 2. If it's an I vowel, go to the next radical of the root. And if it's an A vowel, it's got to be a Niphal. Radical meaning next consonant. Anything else is cow. Yishamer would be an example from Yin Shamer. Rule number 3, reviewed. If you have a shava prefix, go to the next vowel. If it's an A vowel, it's got to be a Piel. He will speak. Yedaber. If it's a U vowel, it's a Pual. Yedu bar. And you're always going to double that middle radical again. If it's an O class vowel under the prefix, it's got to be a Hophal. Like it's a comets katon, or a hatu comets. Yog dal, he has been caused to magnify. And then finally, the mem prefix, following these same rules, will come at the beginning as the prefix. Magdil, for an example, is he will cause to magnify. It's an AI vowel pattern again with the mem, and all the other rules that we just learned, just add the mem. and you'll determine with the same vowel rules whether you're looking at a